Hello everyone and welcome back to Destiny. We are currently right in the middle of a series of major updates to the game that are designed to improve the game and restore things to what we loved about Destiny 1. The Go Fast update is one example. It aims to make the game faster and more action-packed, your abilities will recharge faster, character movement speed is increasing, weapon damage and ammo capacity are also going up. That and the rest of the March update look pretty amazing, and we'll be covering the changes more in depth in another video, but for today, something has been brewing inside of me that I finally want to talk about. As you can imagine, I think about Destiny and its future quite a bit, and we have spent the last couple months in deep analysis trying to figure it all out. How can we restore Destiny 2 to the glory days of Destiny 1? Well, are we sure we even want that? Today I want to talk about how restoring Destiny 2 back to the way things were in Destiny 1 is the worst thing that could happen to the franchise. Let's take a leisurely stroll through my brain and break it all down. So I think right off the bat, it's really important to establish that Destiny 1 was by no means perfect. It certainly did not represent the gold standard of gaming in most respects. In fact, most players' continued interest stemmed from a curiosity and a hope for a better tomorrow. Even still now, Destiny 1 is plagued with a ton of shortcomings. When a new Destiny player boots up Rise of Iron for the first time, the first thing you get is a happy horn in orbit. I know, it's actually kind of hilarious. Then when you finally get to the tower for the first couple visits, you are showered with random quests with no sense of what's going on, which one you need to complete, or even which one is the main story campaign. Destiny 2 fixed that by guiding you through the campaign, unlocking different parts of the game as it made sense. Well then, you might be thinking it's okay to restore just some parts of Destiny 1 that we all miss, like the Grimoire or randomized roles. And sure, it would be cool to see all of that happen, and pushing mech features back to how things were in Destiny 1 would certainly help things out quite a bit. Through a series of updates planned for the next few months and beyond, the developers of Destiny 2's live team is attempting to address player concerns with the current game. The live team, for those who don't know, is a team responsible for maintaining and providing content for the current live version of Destiny 2. This team is led up by game director Christopher Barrett. The assumption is that the core Bungie team, as in the majority of the 700 plus employees, are currently working on something else. The only confirmed new content for the Destiny franchise beyond Expansion 2 coming in May is the major expansion that is slated for the fall. The contract brokered between Activision and Bungie told us this years ago, but of course it was also confirmed by Activision very recently during their last investor call. The contract in question shows us 4 planned Destiny releases followed by a major expansion after each one. This means that after the fall expansion is released, the franchise will be halfway complete. If both parties keep to the contract, we should see Destiny 3 in the fall of 2019, Destiny 3's major expansion in the fall of 2020, and Destiny 4 in 2021 with its major expansion in fall of 2022. After that, Bungie keeps the rights to Destiny as per the terms of the contract, but will most likely move on to another property altogether. Now, of course, delays can happen, plans don't always go the way we hope. In fact, the development history of Destiny is far from perfect. Destiny 1's development was restarted entirely less than a year before its release, and Destiny 2 was rebooted about 18 months before its release. The decision to reboot Destiny 2 delayed it by an entire year, and now with 12 months more of development ahead of them, they had to fill the gap with something. That something was Rise of Iron. But if Rise of Iron was good and Age of Triumph was so much fun, then what happened to Destiny 2? Why did it fall so short? Age of Triumph was a celebration of the last 3 years of Destiny. It represented the culmination of every new system and feature that was introduced into the game. It brought together all of the best content from its life cycle for one last hurrah. Then Destiny 2 came, and after the veil of its cinematic campaign wore off, we were all left with a shell of what we remembered from Destiny 1. The excitement gone, the slower pace of the combat combined with a shallow progression system stripped away any sense of investment. The game as we knew it had fully been casualified. Now, to understand why, we have to imagine for a moment that Rise of Iron never existed. Because for the core developers of Destiny 2, the 700 Bungie employees and the other studios around the world, it didn't. Destiny 2, at least the Destiny 2 we got at launch, started its development at around the exact same time as Rise of Iron. Think about that for a second. This means that Destiny 2 is a sequel to The Taken King. It makes more and more sense the more you think about it. Luke Smith and Mark Noseworthy were the head honchos on The Taken King and Destiny 2. Even the events of Destiny 2 are kicked off by the distress call that was sent out by the Cabal during the Taken King campaign. But honestly, all of this sounds like Destiny 2 should have been set up to be even more epic than The Taken King. So why isn't it? Destiny 2 represented a chance to start over, a clean slate, a chance for them to look at the past and use the last 3 years of community feedback to determine where to go next. Now, they may have started things off with that intention, but at some point, Destiny 2 became a product of focus testing and market analysis. Sadly, we know this to be true because even some of the developers admit that they want a game that appeals to a widest possible audience. But that's not what Destiny is, at least not the Destiny we love and remember. This all reminds me of the story of the Ford Edsel. The year 1957. Ford was looking to build its next successful car. Wanting to make sure that every customer loved the car, they took to the streets and asked customers what they wanted out of a car. The project went through an endless cycle of redesigns and focus testing until it was finally unveiled to the public, and everyone actually bought it. It had a very aggressive marketing campaign, and it appealed to a lot of people because of its forward-thinking features. The issue was that it was doomed from the start. It had a number of production issues, a lot of technical problems, and a lot of cars had to be returned. The issues that it did have weren't exactly fixable, at least not by the mechanics, because they weren't properly trained. All of that hype that had been built up before its release died out very shortly thereafter. I strongly believe that if an idea isn't yours, you won't be able to tell if it fails because it's not coming from a place of genuine inspiration. The Ford Edsel was sadly retired a few years later, and in its place, they released the Mustang. Destiny 2 can't become Destiny 1 because it's lacking the right stuff at its core. The weapons have locked perks, the game doesn't really have a built-in tracking system like Destiny 1's Grimoire or the record books that allowed you to essentially prove that you've mastered the game. The quest system was awkwardly reworked, seemingly at the last moment, leaving only 3 to 4 major world quests. There are also no real secrets to discover. There are scannable objects, sure, but there's no way to really track your progress. We got the new emblem system that adds a counter to how many things you've discovered around the world. However, you can't tell which scannable objects you've already interacted with or how many there are total. It's just not very satisfying. It's one example of them injecting a feature that the core of the game wasn't designed to accommodate. And of course, as many of you will probably remind me, that's just one example. Instead of looking back to see what was wrong with the vanilla release of Destiny 1, they should have looked at what was right. Activision and Bungie's leadership were so concerned with making the game appeal to more people that they forgot to consider why the game continued to remain popular for so long. I mean, Destiny 1 was in the top 15 most watched games on Twitch for most of its life, which is unheard of considering the myriad of problems the game had for most of its life. And not to mention that it sort of became cool to make fun of Destiny. Most of the time us original players played vanilla Destiny 1 was to pursue dead ghosts and other grimoire, and of course those preferred randomized rolls on your favorite weapons. We also pursued attaining the highest available light level. Despite everything that was added to Destiny 1 over its 3-year life cycle, those 3 things remained pretty sacred. I mean, Twitch streamers would have 10-hour-long streams grinding the exact same weapon over and over again just to get that perfect roll. The grind of Destiny 1 is what built this community and brought us all together. We were all in the trenches together and we all kind of formed a bond. Maybe that's what Activision didn't like. So where does this leave Destiny 2? Well, contrary to the inevitable comments of this video, Destiny is not dead. There's a good 1,000 people or so working to develop the future of this franchise. However, we may never get back to the glory days of Destiny 1, at least not in the life cycle of Destiny 2. The fall expansion will invariably be awesome, more content, more gear, maybe a new subclass, but at its core it will be the same game we got at launch, just with a new coat of paint. And this is one place where I'm desperately hoping that I'm wrong. In the last Bungie podcast, which I urge you all to listen to by the way, game director Luke Smith speaks to the game's shortcomings. He expressed ideas like not having enough interesting things to pursue, and maybe that they were too generous with the light progression. Whatever the fall expansion is, it represents Bungie's admittance to their missteps and their willingness to move the game in a better direction. We need as big a change to Destiny 2 as the Taken King was to Destiny 1, if not bigger. Sadly, 6 months may not prove to be enough time for them to pull it off, especially considering that the ramp-up of information needs to happen around E3 in June. The changes that are required to reel players back in may not get done in time for the major expansion. So will Destiny 3 be it? Will we finally be restored to the glory days of Vault of Glass and 2-tap Hawkmoons? No, at least I really hope not. I've mentioned this before, but it bears repeating. It's a crying shame that Destiny 2 has to continue to have so many issues because it cannot progress forward past Destiny 1. I don't want Destiny 3 to simply right the wrongs of Destiny 2. Course correction cannot become the new motto of this franchise. This needs to stop now. The fall expansion and year 2 will be very important, and they need to spend a lot of time and energy to make sure that it's good, but then I want Bungie to take the next couple years and give us something that not only lives up to Destiny 1 year 3, but surpasses it, builds on it, and isn't afraid to take risks. Now with that said, Destiny 2 was good because they dared to change up almost every fundamental part of the game. For that I commend them, but they made all the wrong decisions for all the wrong reasons. Don't get me wrong, I love Destiny and I'm very optimistic about its future. Despite all of these issues, Destiny 2 is a fun and well-crafted game at heart. It has all the polish that we remember from Destiny 1, and a lot of people feel the same. I mean, the biggest issue most players had with the whole Eververse debacle was that it showed that Bungie prioritized making microtransactions better instead of making the game itself better. We all want to love this game, but it's really hard to do that right now. It's time to stop trying to fix the Edsel and give us the Mustang we all deserve. I'd like to know your thoughts on all of this, of course. Do you think the game can slowly become legend again, or do you think we have to wait until Destiny 3 for a true fix? Let's discuss. Drop a like if you enjoyed this video and subscribe for more Destiny content. And I will see you all next time.